Rahim. First, I thank you for the attendance after the lunch. I know it's the most difficult session, so we'll try to make it as light, as interesting as possible. The halal market is actually very big and it's growing very fast. It's one of the very fast growing markets in the world. Actually, the statistics says that the halal food market is growing at double the rate of the typical food market. So the growth in halal is very lucrative and looked at by all companies, both in Muslim and in non-Muslim countries. The halal actually is inspired by our religion, by Islam. And in that, it's not only food. It covers the whole aspects of a Muslim life. So it's cover, for example, the food, the cosmetics, the pharmaceutical, the fashion, even media now is getting into this area with examples like channels that are providing family-friendly programs. So actually every aspect of life is touched by halal. And that makes a lot of opportunities for business all over the world, irrespective of its size, whether it's small, medium, or large companies, whether it's startups. It's a very inviting landscape for this market. It's actually categorized as a blue ocean because still the competition in this market is very low and the innovation in it is very welcomed and it's open. So without speaking too much, I will ask Harold to tell us his thought about this idea.
Thank you, Ashraf, for the lovely introduction. Excellencies, distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I think it is not too late for me to welcome all of you to Malaysia, to Sarawak, and to the Global Halal Business Forum 2023. And I hope you are enjoying our hospitality thus far. A big thank you for the organizer for inviting me to speak in this important event, and I hope that my insights later would add value to your takeaways. Ladies and gentlemen, for information, Malaysia halal export recorded almost USD 15 billion last year. Our key, and not just that, the amount was a 63% increment compared to the previous year, which is 2021. Our key halal trading partners for the past 10 years were China, Singapore, Indonesia, United States of America, and Japan. And moving forward, we look forward to trade more with the OIC countries in the future. But having said that, Malaysia, being the pioneer player in halal, still consider a small player if we measure its performance from a halal trade perspective. This is because the size of halal economy in 2020 has reached USD 3 trillion and anticipated to increase to USD 5 trillion by 2030. Such development, ladies and gentlemen, has created a new set of challenges in terms of supply and demand mismatch. And for your information, the supply of certified halal products that goes into the USD 3 trillion market is still hovering around 20% for the past 5 years, leaving a huge gap of 80% opportunities for global industry players to tap to. As such, more countries, in particular Muslim majority countries, must start embarking initiatives to onboard halal economy, an economy which is proven as one of the fastest growing economic segments in the modern world economy. But the right question to ask here is how to enter this USD 3 trillion market. Ladies and gentlemen, Malaysia halal logo is the most recognized halal logo throughout the world. Our halal logo is recognized in 48 countries all over the world, and this has made Malaysia the country with the best trade connectivity as far as halal supply chain is concerned. As such, International investors love to come to Malaysia because of two reasons. Firstly, they want to make Malaysia as a gateway for their products to enter their desired halal markets. For example, in Southeast Asia and also Asia Pacific region. For information, the size of halal market in Asia Pacific region will reach around USD 2.8 trillion by the year 2030, and ASEAN as a single halal market will offer a USD 900 billion in terms of the size by the same year. And secondly, investors love to make their halal operations in Malaysia as the reference point for their global halal operation. This vision can be achieved because Malaysia halal standards and best practices are the most respected in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we, Halal Development Corporation, an agency under the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry or MITI, is willing to train you, to consult you, and to connect you with our halal business community, because we believe that the only way for us to excel in this industry together is through strategic collaboration and cooperation, both at business to business level and government to government level. And with that, I end my short speech. And again, my special thanks goes to the kind organizer who has invited me to meet all of you today. And we shall unlock more knowledge together during our next session. And I hope that my 15 years of experience in fortifying and enhancing Malaysia halal ecosystem will benefit all of you, and also to your business endeavor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harold. It's very interesting to hear about your services to the halal market, where you can support companies get into this market through training and consultation and introduction to other companies. That's very interesting. Thank you. Maulana Navalaki, would you please?
Barakatuh. And a very good afternoon to you all. You know, the afternoon session is generally known as a graveyard session. Most of the time, let alone the audience, even the speakers have to try and stay awake. And after the sumptuous lunch that our organizers gave us, you're going to have to help us just as much as we're going to help you. Alhamdulillah, first and foremost, you know, the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Man lam yashkurin nas, lam yashkurillah." Those that are not grateful to humanity cannot be grateful to the Almighty. So we express our deep sense of gratitude to the organizers, to KSI and to the OIC, to the Islamic Chamber, for having brought us from a far end of the globe. You know, we travel almost from South Africa to Malaysia. It takes us a good 20-hour to 24-hour journey. And if you have a long stopover somewhere in the Middle East, then it can even get longer. So alhamdulillah, but it is with all that trouble of travel, and travel is trouble. You know, the hadith says, "As-safaru qit'atun min an-nar." The journeying is a part of punishment. A person's rest, his comfort. You can be staying in a 5-star hotel, but you miss the pillow that you sleep on every night. And if you're traveling alone, then you even miss your companion that you are with every day. So these are the pains of travel, but the joys is that you get to meet your fellow brethren, brothers and sisters in other parts of the world. You get to connect with different segments of the Muslim Ummah, which is a joy that is beyond imagination, if you ask me, for those that haven't traveled. So we greet you with the greetings of peace, and we're just going to I was told by the moderator earlier, don't stress, it's going to be a coffee session. I don't think at the end of the program we're going to be having any audience. But I'm actually surprised that people have taken the trouble of not only coming to this program, but also of staying awake. And we hope with that we can keep you awake throughout the duration of the hour that we're going to have with you. The topic that they've given is investment opportunities in the halal industry. Now, I'm not a businessman, I'm a theologian by profession, dedicated 35 of my years of my life, just a little over double of Brother Khairul, to the halal industry. In regulating halal industry in a country like South Africa, where we have a very small component of the Muslim Ummah. Just over 1 million people, 1.5% community are Muslim of the total population. Now, you can imagine when you're such a small drop in that ocean, in that part of the world, it can be a challenge. But speaking to brothers from other Muslim minority countries, I was just speaking earlier to our brother from New Zealand. And I was explaining to him about how successful the halal industry is in South Africa. You would be surprised to learn that in non-OIC countries, South Africa is amongst the top 5 producers of halal products. And in a country that is the halal ecosystem in South Africa hasn't been built on exports. In majority of the non-OIC countries, the halal ecosystem is built on exports. There isn't that much of accessibility to halal for the local community. But in South Africa, there's almost 65 to 70% of FMCG products that are certified halal. So if you walk through a supermarket shelf, aisle, you will see most of the shelves having halal certified products. In South Africa, the meat industry, which is the core of halal, every commercial poultry abattoir and every commercial red meat abattoir, that is beef and lamb abattoir, every one of them is certified halal. Now you think, is that possible? They don't have such a huge export. They don't have such a huge community locally, 1.5%. Yet there is abundance of halal. And that is purely because of the fact that Muslim business community makes up to 35 to 40% of the FMCG industry. And as Muslims, if we can't eat something, we can't sell it. We can't trade with it as well. So you look around, and I say that Muslim countries should be on the top in terms of halal production. The OIC had a meeting around maybe about 10 years ago, before Malaysia was the only standard for halal. The Middle East and you take all the other countries didn't have really halal standard. Turkey, Pakistan, which is known to be a very orthodox Muslim country, had no halal regulation. There was no law in parliament up until the year 2012. There was no law in parliament that actually legislated and regulated the halal imports or even the terminology. So alhamdulillah, in the backdrop of all this, I must say that we're very fortunate in our part of the world. And when OIC realized about a decade ago that 85% of halal certified products are not being manufactured in Muslim countries, 85% of them were being manufactured in non-Muslim countries. As a result of which, the OIC took a decision and resolution at the time that there should be some move of every member country towards embracing the establishment and creation of a halal standard. And there you find this awareness growing globally and at an exponential rate, which is something that is heartening. Better late than never, as they say. And soon, inshallah, halal is not only for the Muslim community. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran Kareem says, Ya ayyuhan nas, kulu mimma fil ard. So just as much as it is important for us to make halal accessible to the Muslim community, it is just as equally important for us to focus on investing in making halal accessible to the greater ummah. Just a little presentation that I got ready on the global halal industry and investment towards that in the private sector. So the global halal industry encompassing sectors such as food, finance, pharmaceutical and lifestyle products presents a dynamic landscape for private sector investments. I would like to shed some light on specific investment opportunities that the private sector can contribute, explore and contribute towards the growth and development of this burgeoning market. Halal food and beverage sector remains a cornerstone of the halal industry. Investment opportunities abound in this sector, driven by a growing global Muslim population and increased awareness of halal practices. Private sector investors can explore ventures in halal certified production facilities. Now, really in places like Malaysia, they've started up halal hubs and halal segments dedicated to halal product manufacturing and all the amenities that is required by the halal industry, which is an excellent halal parks, they call it. Something that we've also spoken to our trade and industry ministry in South Africa to focus on, and hopefully we will get some traction on that. So additionally, investing in research and development to create new halal products that cater to diverse tastes and preferences also present a lucrative opportunity. The second segment that I'd like to talk about is halal pharmaceuticals and healthcare. Now, beyond food, the pharmaceutical and healthcare segments offer untapped potential as they cater to both ethical considerations and to market demand. Halal pharmaceuticals free from prohibited substances align with Islamic principles and cater to a global Muslim consumer base. And this we see, look at the pandemic. We had the West just churning out medications which everybody had to just take without question, without any ethical considerations, without any assurance that the products meet halal compliance. Okay. Private sector investors can explore opportunities in the research and development of halal medicines, healthcare facilities adhering to Islamic principles, and halal certified wellness products as well. And the ladies will bear with me on this one. Halal cosmetics and fashion. Now, many would say that is halal cosmetics and fashion really something that Muslims should be looking at? Of course we should be. And of course, not only the females, but even the males should focus on keeping themselves prim and proper, keeping themselves well-groomed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inna Allah jamilun, yuhibbul jamala. Allah is beautiful in himself, in his being, in his attributes and his qualities, and he loves beauty. So we should obviously, within the bounds of the Sharia, embrace this particular segment of the industry also. The halal cosmetics and fashion industry is also gaining tremendous traction globally, thus exhibiting promising avenues for investment. Private sector investors can explore opportunities in halal certified beauty products, modest fashion lines, and ethical manufacturing practices. The next segment we look at is the halal tourism and hospitality industry. Halal tourism is also another burgeoning sector. The Muslim travelers, and it's mostly millennials, Muslim millennials that are adding huge and tremendous value to this particular sector. Halal-friendly destinations that accommodates religious needs is also something that besides your Hajj and Umrah, I mean, people travel for other religious purposes as well, spirituality, and those that are that embrace philosophy. Okay. Private investors can seize opportunities in the hospitality industry by developing halal-friendly hotels and resorts, providing facilities such as halal recreation and entertainment, privacy, and authentic halal dining options are also something that Muslim travelers look out for. Collaboration with travel agencies to offer halal-centric travel packages can further capitalize on this expanding market. Developing destinations that cater for cultural and religious preferences of Muslim travelers also present a promising avenue for sustainable return. Islamic finance, last but not the least of this presentation. Halal certification and Islamic finance, you will find share intrinsic synergies between each other, reflecting a harmonious integration of economic activities with Islamic principles. The intersection of Islamic finance and the halal industry provides a unique avenue for private sector investments. Islamic financial institutions can play a pivotal role in financing halal business, supporting their growth and expansion, whether it be through profit-sharing mechanisms like mudaraba or asset-backed financing such as murabaha, or even Sharia-compliant financial instruments such as sukuk can be tailored to support halal industry projects. Establishing halal-focused venture capitals can nurture startups and innovative enterprises within the sector. And really, if we take note, we normally see these huge conglomerates and multinationals that we look around and see all over. But you will be surprised to learn that 90% of the industry is not represented by them, is represented by SMMEs. So we've got to invest in these SMMEs. Islamic finance provides avenues for businesses in the halal industry to secure funding without compromising the Sharia principles. To strategically approach investment in the halal industry, private entities should also consider the importance of halal certification. Establishing halal certified products enhances consumer trust and facilitates market entry. And you will find that not only in Muslim countries, but even in non-Muslim countries. Take Europe for an example. The European market, we think is a small market. There's more than 50 million Muslims in Europe, and all of whom demand halal products. Okay. So, in conclusion, the halal industry presents a rich tapestry of investment opportunities for the private sector. From food to finance to tourism and healthcare, strategic investments aligned with Islamic principles can yield both financial returns and positive social impact. By recognizing the diverse facets of the halal industry and embracing innovative approaches, private sector investors can play a pivotal role in unlocking the full potential of this dynamic market. As we navigate the intersection of Islamic finance and the halal industry, let us seize these opportunities to contribute to a sustainable and ethical global economy. With these few words, I thank you all. Terima kasih, jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you, Maulana Navalaki. I cannot stop my engineering background to interfere. I'm taking some numbers that you mentioned. Let's start first. The Muslim population in South Africa is about 2%. Yet, there is about 70% of MCG products that are halal certified. That doesn't match very well, which means there is consumption of halal product by non-Muslims. I have seen a research done in France for cosmetics. Why are people using halal cosmetics? Obviously, 61% answered because of religious purpose, but 16% said because it's of a good quality, which means halal are not exclusively for Muslims. Halal is for everybody. يا أيها الناس كلوا من الأرض حلالا طيبا. الناس, people, not Muslims. It's for everybody. With that, I'd like to give Thomas the talk.
Thank you so much, Ashraf, for your kind introduction, as well as for inviting me to be here today with all of you. It's a pleasure, it's an honor. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm conscious of the time, so I will try to be short, sweet, and sharp. My name is Tomás Guerrero. I'm the director of the Halal Trade and Marketing Center in Dubai. The Halal Trade and Marketing Center is a global business development center focused on the halal economy opportunities for the industry. So at the end of the day, we are working as a trade promotion agency. We are here for facilitating halal trade worldwide. Having said that, and we already said, the halal market is huge, is growing so fast, there's plenty of business opportunities, but we have also some challenges, as you probably know. We don't have a global halal standard. We have different rules for regulating the same market across the Muslim majority countries, so there is a fragmentation from the regulation perspective. So if we want to improve the existing halal standard, we have to harmonize our rules. We need to find a common ground. We need to have a global halal standard, applicable one in all the Muslim majority countries. Obviously, without that, it's not easy to grow as fast as we want, because for companies in the Muslim majority countries, but as well as in the non-Muslim majority countries, the existing regulation is becoming so complex. For many companies, it's not easy to understand why we have different rules, different bodies, different requirements, when at the end of the day, we are talking almost about. So we need to harmonize the regulation. Because if we do that, obviously we will be ensuring transparency, traceability, we will be having better accountability, we will be able to facilitate halal trade properly, not only for the non-Muslim majority countries where the largest producer for many consumer goods are based, also for improving or boosting the intra-OIC countries. Sometimes for the Muslim majority countries, it's even difficult to get into the halal market. And obviously, this is ridiculous. Thinking about companies in Europe or in South America or in Africa having, let's say, better conditions in terms of exporting the halal products to the Muslim majority countries. So, well, that's my point today. Now I think we will be having a debate, we will be having Q&A, so I will give the floor again to Mr. Ashraf, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Thomas, for your insights. Actually, it's becoming very interesting to me because all four of us are coming from different geographies of the world. We are coming from different perspectives, regulation, theological, business, development. So I think it's now important to discuss or ask the panel what stops business from getting into this market. And let me start by Harold.
Thank you, Ashraf. Okay, such a challenging question. The challenges that faced by the industry players going into the halal market. I think I can share the Malaysia standpoint and also how we develop our halal industry here in Malaysia. First thing first, for Malaysia, halal is not an industry. Halal is a value proposition that exists within the key elements of the supply chain of the intersecting industry sectors. So that is number one. And what are the industries that we are talking about? It's food and beverages, cosmetics and personal care, medical devices, meat and meat-based products, pharmaceuticals and supplements, and also warehousing and also logistics. So, for industry players out there who wants to onboard the halal economy, they can choose, pick and choose which industry which they want to flourish or they want to get some profit out of it. Yeah. Okay. Secondly, what we need to understand is the halal supply chain itself. I think you heard from various reports out there the terms farm to fork. Farm to fork, you know, from the farms all the way to the products or food that you can enjoy in restaurants or food truck or so whatsoever. So it's about starting from the inputs all the way to consumers. Inputs, the production of the fresh produce, processing and distribution, marketing, and also to the consumers. So vertically, under each components of the supply chain, there are plenty of business activities that you can participate. I give you an example like inputs, production of inputs. We have activities like animal breeding, animal and crops propagating, animal feed production, fertilizers, hormones and medicaments and so on. And then we go up to production whereby we have poultry and ruminants, vegetables, herbs and tubers, cereals and other commodities, fishes and crustaceans, aquaculture for example, and goes all the way to processing and distribution. We have slaughterhouses, processing plants, factories, industrial zones, which mentioned by Malona just now, the central kitchens, warehouses, and so on. And marketing, we have online and offline now, and consumer can enjoy their food from the restaurants and eateries and also food trucks. But we must remember that all these components, not all these components require halal certificate. Yeah, only critical components within the supply chain that require halal certification. For example, the slaughterhouses, the processing plants, factories, central kitchen, warehouses, the cold chains, hypermarkets and retail shops, restaurants and eateries. So these are the critical components throughout the supply chain that require halal certificate. So not all. So we need to pick and choose what are the critical points to invest. So we need to understand first which part of industry and which part of the supply chain that we need to invest. That's very, very important. And then we need to identify what do we need when we are about to invest in the halal or any sort of economic segment in this entire world. You always need 4 things. Yeah. Number one, if you ask any business community or business people out there, what do they need to invest in a business or in an industry? Number one, they will need incentives, funding, and financing. Rule number 1. If you ask businessmen out there, they don't look for this, mean they are not businessmen. Right. Secondly, they need to have a better access to market space and marketplace. Where to export, where to place their products, how to place their products, market space and marketplace. The new one need to be found, and the existing one need to be expanded. Okay. Number 2. Number 3 is the enhancement of marketing strategy. How we want our product packaging looks like. Is it attractive enough? where do we want to place it in the hypermarts? Is it something premium, or you want your product to be like others, you know? Or what kind of pricing that you want to introduce to the market? We must know the willing to sell and willing to pay, right? These are the economics, and then those who are in economics, they know about this. And fourthly is access to talents. Because, ladies and gentlemen, halal is a knowledge-driven kind of economy. So it lies with the people. So this is where the professionals among the halal executives and also halal internal auditors is very, very crucial to ensure or to protect or to ensure that the halal integrity throughout the supply chain of their business is fully protected throughout time. Because we cannot, one company obtain their halal certificate, the approval given for the period of 2 years, and one day they are conform to halal, and then tomorrow something happened, their halal executive ran away or got another job in other company, and then it jeopardized their halal integrity. And then when the auditor came and then inspect the factory, and then they got trouble with the authority. So we cannot have that. So I think first thing first, the businessman must know what they are dealing with when embarking or onboarding the halal economy. Okay, that is for start. Of course, later I will let the other gentlemen out there to share their view on what are the issues and challenges, maybe from their own experience. Okay, thank you, Ashraf.
Well, thank you, Harold. I think that's a very good summary of the market. It's a value chain. Any problem with any step of the value chain will render the end product as non-halal. And another very important aspect of it, the morality of the production. Halal cannot be taken as just a system that I'm complying with when I need to. I mean, any producer needs to understand that this is coming from religion. It has a religion background. So it is not a day yes, a day no. It does not work this way. There is a responsibility taken by the producer to sell halal product to his consumer as long as he is stating that it is halal. Because the judge will not be us, it will not be the auditor. There is someone else that will be judging the producer at the end of life. With this, Maulana Nablaki, can you tell us about the problems of how to get into the halal market and make a better use of it?
You know, as believers, every action of ours is underpinned by intention, whether it be of a religious nature or facet of our life, whether it be one of a recreational nature, whether it be one of a commercial nature. Every facet of a believer's life is underpinned on sincerity of intention. And the more noble your intention is, the more greater the effect and result will be. Not only in terms of reward, but also in terms of the material effect. So sometimes we create a kind of a divide and separation between spiritual and mundane. In Islam, there is no separation between spiritual and mundane. You are a spiritual being, and your mundane life is also governed or must be governed by spirituality. People walk to their businesses every day or to their offices. Who amongst us, or majority of those amongst us, will go towards the business, will go towards our professions, towards our offices, thinking that we are going to do an act of worship? We go to the mosque, yes, with that framework that I'm going to read my salat, or I'm going for Jum'ah, or I'm going to a religious event. But who of us goes every morning to our workplace with this in mind, that I'm going to do an act of worship? Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Our very purpose of creation is nothing else other than worship. So understand that everything we do, our entire economy, should not just be a place to generate profit, to generate income, to make money. No. Why did Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam say, "At-tajir as-saduq al-amin," that trader, that businessman who is honest, who is truthful, how will he be raised? With who will he be raised? Not with just the pious. He'll be raised ma'an nabiyyin, with the prophets, with the most noblest of creation on the day of judgment. So understand the rank of those that are involved in commercial activity. What is the difference between a Muslim businessman and a non-Muslim businessman? Between a halal business and between another non-halal business? What is the difference? If the common denominator is profiteering, is making money, is increasing your bank balance, then there's no difference between the two. A Muslim businessman, I mean, this area, Indonesia, Malaysia, this greater Malay area, China, there were no wars that took place that Muslims came and conquered. No. It was Muslim businessmen, it was the Sahaba, the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that came out to do business. And it is seeing their integrity, seeing the purity of their heart, seeing the fact that these people are not just here to come and, what do they call it, skin us or take as much profit as they can out of us. No. They came with a totally different viewpoint of how can we benefit humanity. This benefit to humanity, khairun nasi man yanfa'un nas, the best amongst you, the best amongst humanity are those that are beneficial to humanity. What do we do with our wealth as businessmen? Inna fil mali lahaqqun siwa zakah. Besides your charity, people have a right in your wealth. Your family have, your relatives have, your community has, your countrymen have, humanity at large has a right in your wealth. So I think we've got to view wealth in a different light. We've got to view business in a different light. And if we only view it in the proper context, will we find blessing beyond comprehension. وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. When Allah says that I will provide for you from places you cannot even conceive. You cannot even conceive. But I will provide. He is the provider. The effort you make, the outcome is not in our hand. So I think we've just got to change our mindset with even these halal regulations, halal avenues, efforts that are made, the Global Muslim Business Forum, the halal summits and conferences that we have all over. We've got to change our mindset. How can we strengthen each other as the ummah? I mean, look at our Muslim countries. Every country has its own standard. Every country has its own regulation. Every country wants to establish its own halal certification. There is no unity and uniformity. We're not stretching our hands out to our fellow brethren. But somehow or the other, there's a power struggle. In business, there's a power struggle. In regulation, there's a power struggle. What are we doing? We've lost the essence and spirituality of a believer's life. Jazakallah.
Thank you, Maulana Lavalaki. وتعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان. I think this sums what you have said. Okay, thank you very much. Thomas, would you like to talk about?
Sure. Basically, we have identified four main barriers. First of all, as I already said, the lack of clear regulation. We can't continue with the system, with the existing legal framework. We need to harmonize the standards. We have to find a way to come with an ISO or a global halal rule to have the same requirements across the Muslim majority countries. That's the first barrier, of course. The second one is the lack of use of new technologies in our market or sector. Why not to use, for example, now blockchain for ensuring traceability? Sometimes our sector is a bit far from disruptive technology. We are working with the, let's say, tools and mindset from centuries ago. We need to improve also our performance from that point of view. We have to add, we have to introduce new technologies in our sector. Then, obviously, the lack of access to finance, Islamic finance in particular. It's also interesting to see how producers in the non-Muslim majority countries, they are producing halal goods according to the halal standards, but using for that haram money. How is possible? Why not to connect the Islamic banking and finance sectors with the halal industry? That intersection, as Mulana said, will be, boosting the market. And finally, I think we have also a lack of branding and promotion. From my point of view, I think we don't have good tools for promoting halal products. Everyone knows McDonald's or the fast food chain, they are halal. But you don't know if there is, for example, a chef across the world with a Michelin star working with halal goods or products. So we have, I think, to add value to the halal goods, and we need to change the approach, because sometimes we are always talking about tons of meat, but we are not talking about, let's say, the final product, those ready-to-eat product where the value added is there, right? So I think we have also a lack in terms of branding and promoting halal goods.
Well, thank you, Thomas. So 4 barriers. We in the Islamic Chamber of Commerce for Halal project, Islamic Chamber Halal, we've been interacting with consumers and business all over the world. And from our interaction, we can identify some problems with consumers and some problems with business. With consumers, it's actually 2 main points. First is awareness, what is halal and what is not. As my friend Thomas talked about McDonald's, let me tell you, and that's from the site of McDonald's USA, that they stopped production of halal food. Not a single product of their product is halal since 2013. Let me give you another example, that M&M's, the famous candy produced in the UK, as per their website, is not suitable for halal diet. Now, these products produced in Muslim countries are by nature halal. So we are used to them. But when we travel, we buy from non-Muslim countries non-halal products and bring them to our children. A lot of us has the perception that McDonald's is halal, and we go to this as the safe harbor for halal food. Sorry, it's not the case. So by awareness, I mean that Muslims in Muslim countries and in non-Muslim countries should learn and know that not everything seemingly halal is halal. There might be a certain component in it, a gelatin or the way of production, that renders it non-halal. And that's a problem. Now, the other problem is that there are so many halal logos out there. We have counted over 400, and it's still counting. It's not exclusive list. So I personally asked my cousin, she's living in Canada, how do you solicit halal product? And she said, very easily, we look at halal logo, and I asked the silly question, how do you know that this logo is authentic? I said, what are you talking about? And my question is, who is the issuer of this logo? According to what standard? Is it the validity of standard still valid or not? What's the scope of the certification? Nobody knows. And the logo does not say. Now, if we go into the producer and the business, there is definitely, as my friend Thomas said, there is multiple standards. So the producer, when he wants to export to Malaysia, to Indonesia, to Turkey, to Emirates, he finds 4 standards that he needs to comply to. Which one? And that's a very good question. He should comply with all of them, unfortunately. Now, who should give him a certificate? It's not anyone. It should be someone who is accredited from these countries, the target countries that he's going to. If it is not, his products will stop at the port, at the gate of the country, it will not enter. So he should select which certification body, and she should know how to select the certification body. A lot of mosques, especially in Europe, does the certification, but are they accredited? Unfortunately not. So they give the perception to non-Muslim business that they are getting a halal certificate, but they start to go to a Muslim country and they tell them, sorry, doesn't work. So is this halal or not? Who are you to give us or not give us? It undermines the trust in the halal. Now, if I go to business, to trading, some traders we met in Europe, in non-Muslim countries, are trying to bring halal product, to procure halal product, to sell it to their customers. And sometimes they get a certificate. We have seen certificate with the word halal with an he, not a ha. It's obviously not correct. So how to do that? Now, the best business is a business that solves a problem. And these are problems. And from every problem, there is an opportunity. There is opportunity for small businesses to start websites for awareness, application, mobile apps to tell who is halal and who is not. I'm inviting certification bodies to put a QR code. Actually, you are doing this in the Halal Chamber. A QR code that can be scanned by any mobile and tells the scope of the certification, what it is, when it ends, if it's still valid or not. Of course, we are all talking about unification of standards, but this is long shot. Maybe for the time being, we have a recognition of other standard, maybe with modifiers or something. It's a mid way. I think at this point, we should take some questions and get interaction from the floor. So, any questions? Please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A very interesting discussion. But if you Google information on problems and challenges of halal in the world, you will have a long list of things, including the one that the panel had mentioned. But the issue is this. We have problem with numerous logo. We have to live with it. We have to recognize each other. We need to pick and choose which particular country we have confidence in the logo. That's one example of the problems. And we do have other problems also. But the issue would be, we have this conference years and years, or whatever conference related to halal, we discuss about this problem and challenges. But what is our initiative, actions that we should be proposing so that we can tackle or minimize these challenges?
Well, thank you. We'll take the panel's thoughts on these questions. Yeah, go ahead, Thomas.
Well, there are some initiatives, for example, to harmonize practices in the accreditation space as well as in the standardization space. So there were some initiatives, but honestly, they were not successful. Same, I saw, for example, here in Malaysia, projects for introducing new technologies in the halal market. In Malaysia, they were successful, but they are not, in other places. So I know, I got your point. I have sometimes the same feeling. Same people talking about the same challenges, but nothing happened. Well, we have to look at the authorities. We have to look at the bodies. For example, I was thinking now about the OIC, about the multilateral body for the 57 Muslim majority countries. They came with CIMIC a long time ago for having a common ground for the halal standards. After X number of years, we still have the same issue. Now they are thinking about coming with a new halal accreditation body for trying to do the same. Let's see what happens. But behind the scenes, there are honestly politics problems between the Muslim countries. That's the truth. And because of that, we are not able to move on or to fix some of these problems, and we are still, let's say, suffering or having the same situations. Obviously, companies, consumers, they are waiting for a better, let's say, approach, for a better halal sector. But if the authorities are not moving on, if they are not finding agreements, it's so complex, because at the end of the day, we are talking about a regulated market, right? So we have standardization bodies, we have accreditation bodies, then we have the certifiers, but we are talking about many logos, but at the end of the day, at least from my point of view, the problem is not coming from the certifiers. There are certifiers doing a great job. It's true, there are also some certifiers coming with bad practices, of course, and we have to fix that. But we have that situation in part because from the top, we don't have clear rules, we don't have transparency, we don't have accountability. If you said you use Google, put halal and then corruption, and check the news. Not far from here. Not so far from here. And you will find many names from this country, from Indonesia, from some countries in Middle East. So we have that situation, and we are aware of that. So we can ask the certifiers, the small piece of this big market, or the producers, to change and fix the problem. They are following the rules. But if the rules are coming from the wrong authorities, or from those authorities with, let's say, not a good approach, what to do? So yeah, you are right. I'm fully agree with you. We are always talking about the same people talking about the same challenges, about the same problems, about the same things. But we have to do something, as you said, but not easy. Why? Because those solutions must come from the top. And on the top, you have politicians. You don't have the auditors, you don't have the consumers, you don't have the manufacturer, you have politicians. They are the ones creating the problems. They are the ones avoiding the harmonization. They are the ones avoiding many things. So we have maybe to ask them for some changes. If not, we will be facing the same situation. That's all. I don't know if you want to.
Thank you. Harold, would you like to add something?
Thank you. Halal Development Corporation is not a halal certification body. It is agency set up by the Malaysian government to spearhead the industrial development part of halal. Because Malaysia, under the newly launched Halal Industry Master Plan 2030, we are trying to balancing up the two elements that grow our halal ecosystem. The element number one is the governance, halal governance development, and pillar number two is halal industry development. So both elements need to sync together so that we can have, we can develop what we call a more robust and sustainable halal ecosystem. Because if the government or the industry only focusing on the governance part of halal, yes, Malaysia all this while shouting to the whole world that we have the best halal certification and also logo for the past, I think maybe 40 years. But end of the day, there's not much Malaysia halal product and services that can be offered to the global consumers. So that's the reason why, even though Malaysian government has started through JAKIM, has started to introduce our first halal approval letter back in 1974, right? That was like 48 years ago. It took us almost like until year 2020, year 2000, the government realized that, hey, we have a very good halal certification and logo, which was followed by many countries out there. But the big question here is, where are the products and services? And then government start to realize, hey, let's include this halal industry development agenda into the strategic document of the country, including the Malaysia plan, the new industry master plan, so and so forth. So you realize that since year 2000, the Malaysian government already talking about the industry development of halal. In year 2006, the government introduced Halal Development Corporation to spearhead this part of ecosystem. Then we combine both pillars and we successfully develop what we call the halal ecosystem. And in Malaysia, at the moment, we have about 200,000 industry business entities that involve in various halal-related industries, which supported by more than 360 organizations. But still, having said that, just now during my presentation or during my speech, I said that Malaysia halal export last year was 60 billion ringgit, 63% increase to the previous from the previous year. But what is 60 billion ringgit entering the 3 trillion USD market? Malaysia is the forefronting country when it comes to halal, but still lacking in terms of supplying to the whole world with high quality or certified halal products. So I think I agree, many events, forums, conference out there discuss about the issues and challenges about halal. I think it's time for us to shift the focus. Shift the focus from just focusing on the governance side of halal. Let's talk about industrial development part of it. Because in Malaysia, even though just now I mentioned that we have about 200,000 industry players involved in halal-related businesses, but I think you know we have only less than 10,000 companies certified by JAKIM thus far. So even in Malaysia, because we are champion in halal, but we still have now 190,000 companies out there eligible for the halal certificate, but not yet certified halal because of various reasons. So I think the focus now, if you ask me, let's have more discussion, more forum, more conference to help our industry players out there, to teach them, to coach them on how to onboard the halal economy. So that is my take, because I love to talk on the progressive kind of perspective rather than discussing about the issues and challenges. Because for me, bureaucracy has its own reason, so we have to work around it and then try to beat the system where we can. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Haral. Maulana Navalaki, you need to add something?
Yeah, just a comment. I think, it's not all gloomy out there. If you do a Google search, you'll find lots of things that are right and lots of things that are wrong as well. I think we've got to look at the positive side. Where Malaysia was 3 decades ago and where they are now is like the heavens and the earth. Where halal was 3 decades ago and where it is now, it's come a long way. Talking of South Africa, I mean, in the last 3 decades, there's been an amazing boom in a Muslim minority country. And so Europe. So I think, there are challenges, there are difficulties, there are lots of conferences and summits and workshops that are happening. But don't be despondent, it's good. It's creating awareness. People are reaching out to each other. People are connecting. People are supporting each other. And yes, we're living in a real world. There's always going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly. We've got to live with them. We can't expect to have a perfect world. The world is imperfect. Man and humanity is full of imperfection. We've got to strive. We've got to strive for excellence. We've got to continue keeping at it. And doesn't matter. This is the effort that we make. The result is not in our hand. The result is in the hands of the Almighty. Keep on trying. Keep your shoulder to the wheel. Keep talking about it. And help and strengthen each other. وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. جزاكم الله.
Thank you, Maulana. If I may make a final comment about this question, because it's a very touchy question. There is always two sides to the logos. Side in the Muslim countries that can actually be controlled by the government, and side in the non-Muslim countries or the majority non-Muslim countries where it cannot be governed because the government is not interested actually in this space in the very beginning. Now, the strongest control is the consumers. Consumer can decide what we want and what we don't want. They can throw away the bad logos. Unfortunately, there are logos that are self-claimed. Someone who decides to get into this halal market, he sees everybody ask about it, they'll just download the logo and put it in my product without certification, without anything. We have seen certification given by email, not an audit. It happens. There is respectable certification bodies. I'm sure of that. But again, the power either come from a government that only works in Muslim countries or come for consumers everywhere in the world. Consumer demand what they want. Now, I would like to give all of my panelists 1 minute for a final comment.
Thank you, Brother Ashraf. I believe that the movement and also the initiative that we need to focus on as far as the halal economic development agenda is concerned is to connect. What do we need to connect? Is to connect halal ecosystems. Because Malaysia now under the new leadership, so we are focusing more on connecting our halal ecosystem, which is 50 years old, okay, to a halal ecosystem available in other parts of the world. Well, the maturity level is not the same, but I think we can level the playground so that all business, halal business community out there will sync together, and having more focus on trade, investment, and also creating quality employment from the development of halal ecosystem and halal economy in their respective country. Thank you.
Thank you, Harold. Maulana, a final comment?
I think we've got a whole, another half a hole that is filled up in this last few minutes. So
that's the next one. We
yeah.
are waiting for us.
Are we encroaching on somebody else's time, maybe? Anyway, I'm not going to take much time, except to say that don't lose focus. We are part of this greater ummah. Al-mu'minuna wal-mu'minatu ba'duhum awliya'u ba'd. In every respect, we are guardians of each other, whether it be in our private, our business, our regulation, our governments. Let's strengthen each other. Let us avoid power play. Let us assist and support those that are at the bottom and help bring them up. And let us not have a very myopic, isolated, patriarchal kind of an approach towards what we do and how we do it. May Allah Ta'ala strengthen us and guide us towards that which pleases Him.
Thank you very much, Thomas.
Well, finally, despite the problems, barriers, challenges that we have been discussing, I invite you all to continue exploring this business opportunity, because as we saw, the market is huge, it's growth, and we will have for sure in the future a better situation. So, as I said, please don't hesitate and go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, audience. Thank you very much.